Welcome to the Hobby Clubhouse review of the high-grade Universal Century number 41 Zeta Gundam. That is to say, this is the first release of the Zeta Gundam in the HGUC line from back in 2003. My box here looks a little bit battered because it has some water damage, so don't mind it being a little bit wrinkled. Now, why review this old Zeta Gundam of all things? Looking around YouTube, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of modern or notable reviews of these older kits. The most notable recent example is from Kakura197, who works really hard, and his review is from a whopping 8 years ago. So, it's our turn here at Hobby Clubhouse to help you see what this kit has to offer. Specifically, this kit was released in Japan back in October 2003 for a price of 1,728 yen. The box is a standard HG size of 30 by 19 by 6.5 centimeters. The front illustration is credited to B-Craft, otherwise known as Junichi Akutsu. The box layout is an older style which features the Zeta Gundam in an upright and frontal view with the background showing the Wave Rider in atmospheric re-entry. Moving to the side of the box, this is also from the time before when all Bandai kits included English text in all its materials, so the front and back studio shots here are accompanied by Japanese text with the in-universe information on the Zeta Gundam. On the other side of the box are shots focused on the Wave Rider form with a blurb of real-world information on the mobile suit. The box layout really is much more conservative than modern HG kits, and they're not so eager to show every single feature of the kit and accompany it with a big bunch of text. Inside the box, we get the kit spread across 6 runners, which is very low compared to more modern HG kits. The foil stickers also reflect the age of the kit, with each sticker labeled with katakana Japanese instead of numbers, which was the style at the time. Other than the eye and the camera stickers for the head, the other stickers are yellow highlights for the shoulders, the legs, and the shield. Underneath all that is the instructions, with the colored side giving more information on all the weapons in Japanese, and then some more info on the Zeta, along with the Wave Rider transformation instructions. The black and white side is entirely dedicated to the assembly instructions. Jumping ahead 2 hours, here's the completed Zeta Gundam, which comes very color complete right out of the box. At a glance, you really can't find any particular egregious missing colors. I mean, maybe the worst are the rims of the flying armor in black, which are supposed to be red and you don't get any stickers for it. Another are the white panels on the top of the flying armor, which should be white. The proportions too are quite good, with more classic aesthetics with long triangular surfaces, and big long side skirts, and a big sloping head. If you're a fan of a more animation accurate look, this kit is quite pleasing to look at. The flying armor is also quite small compared to modern kits like the real grade, and back in animation they really were about this size, and this is only in modern Zeta Gundams that they made the flying armor quite big, and this is the only modern kit I know that gives you this classic animation look. And let's take a look at the weapons and accessories, starting with the Zeta Gundam's beam rifle. The rifle is molded in black, as you'd expect, and they're 2 parts sandwiched together. Notably, the front of the rifle can be retracted, which is used for the Wave Rider mode. The handle too can be swung forward or backwards, and this is also for the Wave Rider mode. One big flaw of the gun, as you may have already seen, is this big rectangular peg sticking down from the back. It's very unsightly, and it hurts this otherwise decent looking kit, and it makes it look like a toy. Next, let's look at a bigger gun, the Hyper Mega Launcher. The barrel is molded in gray, which is a nice touch, as are the 3 grips which are underneath these covers that can swing up. But before you let the Zeta Gundam hold onto the gun, remember to extend it into its firing mode. The handle slides right into Zeta's hand, though it's not very secure and it's going to swing around a bit, so you'll have to secure it under the armpit or on the side of the body. And then there's the more serious problem of the side handles being quite useless. The 2003 articulation just doesn't even come close to letting the other hand grip the side handle, so it's more here for show. And much like the rifle, the seam runs along the entire body, but the blue plastic makes it quite a bit more noticeable. And it's not hidden as a panel line or anything, so it's going to be quite a bit of work preparing this for painting. One more inaccurate detail is this gap between the rod and the gun's body, which is filled with plastic, clearly to keep the rod from breaking off, and this is the sort of design concession that they don't make anymore on modern kits. Next, we have the shield, which sometimes people forget is actually not a part of the arm. Continuing the classic aesthetic, The red triangular top is narrow and viewed from the side, which none of the later Zeta kits had. The shield can only be attached to one surface of the forearm, so this can limit the posing of the arm. The shield can be rotated back in between the shoulder and the flying armor, but you can't bend or rotate the arm at all like this, so this is quite useless. Otherwise, the shield looks like the shield, and it's fine. Next, we get this grenade pack that attaches into the same slot as the shield, and you can equip it into the free arm. You do get 2 of these, though the Zeta doesn't ever seem to be without its shield, so the extra pack may not be too useful. The final weapon is the classic HGUC solid beam saber that's molded into the hand, and this manages to not be any of the colors it's supposed to be. The fist is gray, the handle is black, and the beam is pink, and this thing is white. I imagine many of these old beam sabers were doomed to a life inside the box, which were rarely displayed for more casual builders. But personally, I don't think these are without merits. These hands are sculpted into the handles so they can have a more natural holding pose, and the piece is not that difficult to alter and accept a modern clear beam piece, so it's not too doom and gloom really. And because this kit predates any of the clear beam saber parts, both gun barrels are too narrow to accept any of the effect parts. Okay, well what about the transformation? The Zeta Gundam is a parts forming kit, which I personally don't have much problems with. The included frame for transforming is quite small compared to many of the more modern kits, and it does bother to have gray along with the white. To transform, you need to remove the entire neck and head assembly. Then you take off the 2 flying armor pieces, and flip up the cockpit, which allows the entire top layer of the torso or armor to be basically peeled off. Then you remove the other parts like the side skirts, the back skirt, the shield, and the legs, but not the arms. When all that's done, you should have the Zeta separated into the following pieces along with the stripped down torso that looks like this. The legs take a small bit of work to transform. First, you pull off this cowl that goes over the thrusters on the back of the legs. Then you need to slide this part of the back of the knees downwards. And then you fold the entire hinge backwards and upwards. And then you put the cowl back on, but with this higher up hole to keep the thruster bells exposed. Even though the thruster bell isn't just plain white, it still stands out badly with this weird blue color. From here on, you can move on to attaching the pieces back onto the frame, with the upper torso armor fitting onto the top of the frame. And then the legs go onto the ball connectors. And then the back skirt fits right into the rear with specific pegs. The side skirts have holes for you to slot them in, and it's all very straightforward. The flying armor needs to be expanded by sliding it outwards and flipping the red wings out. And then you just attach them to the bottom of the frame. The shield goes in between into a hole, and then you'll need to lock it into the cockpit on the other side once you're done. But wait, there's a little bit more to do. The beam rifle's ugly peg finally comes into play here, with it attaching onto the rear of the stabilizer. And the word of note here is that in the initial transformation, I forgot to shorten the gun, and the beam rifle is supposed to look like this instead, so just ignore the really long beam rifle if you can. Back to the Wave Rider, the Hyper Mega Launcher attaches onto the shield with 2 rectangular pegs. So the Wave Rider is capable of carrying all its armaments into a fight properly. Now you may have noticed earlier that there were some landing gear pieces, and those go into the sides of the launcher right here, and here, and then also one at the front. And sadly, unlike later Zeta kits, this is the only way for the Wave Rider to be displayed. This kit was from before any of the action bases, and there's really no easy way to display the Wave Rider suspended on an action base, so this is one sad consequence of its age. Much like the rest of the kit, you'll like this if you like the more retro look. This is also one of the odd distinctions of this kit, because it's the only classic design Zeta Gundam Wave Rider you can get in 1/144 scale today. The late 80s kit didn't transform at all, and the later 1991 HG was the Wave Shooter variant, which looks a little bit different. Then all the later Zeta kits no longer adopted the animation look, and I know you're tired of hearing this by now, but this really is a unique charm of this older kit. From the bottom, the flying armor is much more angled inwards and it has its lines radiating outwards from the tip. The thruster bells are still kind of ugly, and these panels here, which are supposed to be the arms, are sort of oversimplified. And the missing red rim of the flying armor really does stand out. And overall, the Wave Rider is illogically flat, which not even the original animation is supposed to look this flat, which is something much harder to fix even for a builder. It's not super noticeable until you look at it very closely for a little while, so it's not the end of the world. So onto the articulation starting from the very top. The head can go back a little over 20 degrees, but the forward dip is much further. It turns side to side about 45 degrees before quickly hitting the yellow collar. The shoulder armor has a nice concession where the middle section lifts up like a biker's helmet visor to allow the arms to raise upwards. It's a bit of a rare thing for this era of HG kits. The whole arm swings up, but it will hit the flying armor before long, and the same is true the other way, so it can't swing a full circle. The bicep can pivot a full circle. And a single jointed elbow can only manage 90 degrees, sadly. The fists can be adjusted on the ball joint. The tail stabilizer is hinged at 2 parts, as is most Zeta kits. The upper torso may be bulky, but the waist can manage a full rotation. But sadly, there's no forward crunch or backwards arc as many of these old HGs are. The front skirts flip up 90 degrees before a panel inside stops the swinging further. The side skirts flip up and hits the waist, and then they go down a little bit. The back skirt does not move at all. The legs can swing forward right up to the locked skirt armor. And then they go back before they hit the flying armor, even before they ever touch the back skirt. The knees are double jointed, which is very rare for the time, but they were more of a necessity for the transformation. But still, that allows them to fold close to 180 degrees. Moving down a little, the armor on the shin can swing along a single plane, and the ankles swing forward and backwards this much, and side to side a little bit more. So overall, the articulation is a little bit better than what was common for the era of HG kits. It's hard to be too critical of the kit since the designers did seem to push the boundaries of the kit a bit, like with the shoulder armor, and even the hip rotation shockingly isn't always a given with older HG kits. It does limit it from holding the Hyper Mega Launcher as mentioned before, and that's a little bit harder to overlook. But overall, I'd say it's definitely a little bit obsolete, but it can strike quite a few handsome poses still. So with all that said, here's a Hobby Clubhouse 3-point verdict on the HGUC number 41 Zeta Gundam. Number 1. The classic aesthetics is a big draw. One of the biggest reasons to buy this kit is for the looks. It leans heavily towards the classic animation look, and it really is the only modern Zeta kit to do so. So if you want that vintage triangular silhouette, it's this or nothing. And this captures that look really nicely. Number 2. It looks good right out of the box. The coloring is mostly accurate, and as much as you can reasonably expect, it may be an old HG kit, but it's not going to disappoint you. But number 3, it's trapped in its era. Sadly, there's just no overlooking some of the limitations of the older design conventions. And if you're buying a kit to pose and play and enjoy, this Zeta will do the best it can from its time, but it simply can't hope to compare with something that's newer. I know that's not the most satisfying thing to learn, but it is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't, and it's good to know if this fits something that you may want or not. So that's a review of the classic HGUC Zeta Gundam. It's a good rendition of the Zeta Gundam, and the drawbacks are really not particular to this kit, and hopefully you'll find enough merit to give it a chance too over the many newer choices. Thank you so much for watching. Come hang out with us on social media with updates on upcoming videos, or hang out here some more with one of these other videos. But before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos from Hobby Clubhouse, and I'll see you next time.